budget gave homebuyers nothing, not even a glimmer of hope. But perhaps there is a private company that has already raised 440 million and is seeking approval from the central bank that could help renters and buyers and give them the opportunity that they're looking for. When the news broke about this company raising 440 million and opening up a new market for buyers, I reached out to them to see if they'd share a bit of insight and what their plans for the future are. I didn't think that they'd be too keen to speak to me or share information with me, but I was wrong. They were happy to share information with me on their plans. They gave me a lot of very valuable information, which I'm going to share with you in this video. I asked them some tough questions, they gave me interesting answers, and they shared one thing with me that I think will have a big impact on the housing market into the future, so make sure you stay watching. This video will touch a little bit on the pros and cons of rent to buy, the new players in the market, what are the risks associated, the potential opportunities for both operator and potential buyers. I have been asked to make videos on rent to buy options in Ireland. It wasn't a topic I was overly interested in, as rent to buy wasn't a major thing within the Irish property market, and there was only a few small players. But that all changed a few weeks ago when I saw an article about a company called Dwellr, who are new to the rent to buy market. They've opened up a new operation and they've raised over 440 million from wealthy Irish families, and they're creating a portal to help people buy and get on the property ladder. When the story broke a few months ago, I posted it up on Instagram. I got a fair few comments back saying, sounds too good to be true, what's the catch? This is some form of scam. I applied, I've made the application, but I haven't heard anything back. When I spoke to Dwellr, I put all of these comments and concerns to them. I also put a whole host of questions to them as well, including how is the rent calculated, how long is the application process, how does it work for Dwellr, how do they make their money? Wealthy families have invested in the company, surely they want some sort of return as well. And what happens if a renter doesn't want to stay any longer or no longer wants to buy? I also asked, is the real issue people can't get mortgages? Surely there's a lot of people who are mortgage ready already, and the real issue is actually lack of homes. And does creating a model like this just add more competition to an undersupplied market already? I also asked questions about the type of homes that qualify and what happens if they get an oversubscription of a particular type of home in a certain location, and are one beds considered to be appropriate, considering that some people might grow out of a one bed within the 3-year timetable. I also asked questions about tenants' rights, the RTB, and who was actually behind Dwellr. Before I get on to the answers that I got from those questions, I think it's important to have a quick look at their website. Their tagline is unlocking home ownership, paving a new path to home ownership. Their website is in beta at the moment. I believe this is because they're still waiting on central bank approval, and they're only trying to gather inquiries at the moment. The website is fairly straightforward. Apply for approval, find your dream home, go sale agreed. Dwellr buy the home for you and rent it back to you, and then Dwellr work with you to get mortgage ready and build up savings so you can buy the home within a targeted 36 months. There is way more information on the website. I would suggest checking it out. When I did speak to Dwellr, they obviously have informed me that they haven't fully launched yet. But if you are interested in this product, make sure you do click the link. I will leave a link below, so check it out after the video. And make sure, if you are interested in this, to sign up, because they are going to work off a first come, first serve basis. Since I learned about Dwellr, another new rent-to-buy operator has also launched. They're called Homely. They've raised about 30 million and they're about to enter the space as well. There is an article about them in the Irish Independent a few weeks ago. I don't know a huge amount about Homely. I did only speak to the guys at Dwellr. Before I get onto the pros and cons of rent to buy and the one nugget that potentially might unlock a huge amount of homes for the Irish market, I'm going to unpack some of the questions I asked Dwellr in no particular order. So who is behind Dwellr? The website mentions a team of industry experts, but who are they? Mark Duffy, the former head of Bank of Scotland and Ireland, is mentioned in the article, but who else is behind this? I asked this question because I think it's very important to build trust and to know who you're dealing with, because It does mention that there is a team of leading experts, but there is no names to this. And I think a lot of people will want to know who they are providing their data to. So therefore, I thought it was an important question to ask Dwellr. To be fair to Dwellr, they did give me a reasonable answer or fair answer. They did mention a few of the industry experts who are involved, but they can't be named at this point in time because they're still going through the central bank process. A number of those people have roles elsewhere, and therefore it's not fair to mention their names until they get full approval from the central bank, which I think in the circumstances is a fair enough answer. But hopefully more information will be provided about the people who are behind Dwellr in the near future. The next question I thought was interesting was, what's in it for Dwellr? A lot of people will believe it's a scam or too good to be true, but there has to be a return for the investment for those investors who have already put up 440 million into the project. They'll want to know that they're getting a return. And how do you also address the concerns for people who believe it's a scam? I have to give Dwellr some credit here. They gave me more information than I was actually expecting on this question. They understand the naysayers, they've got the same comments themselves, they are aware of it, that they have to address it. They feel that the only way they can address it is over time by providing a good product and also providing more and more information on their website as time goes by. The more approvals they get from the central bank, the more information that they will be able to hopefully put on their website, which will ease some of these concerns around it being a scam or being too good to be true. On the question about what's in it for them, many of you guys probably think they overcharge on the property or they make money if someone backs out of a deal. Surprisingly, they told me they had 3 main income streams and they weren't making a huge amount of money off the renter or buyer. They were mainly just looking to cover their costs with a small top up from the renter and buyer. The income comes a little bit from their rent. They will work with developers in the future, but mainly they're working with lenders to help arrange mortgages. It's a different way of looking at a mortgage brokerage. They didn't share all the ins and outs with me for obvious reasons, but they gave me enough insight for me to understand their business model and that they weren't about scamming potential buyers. They actually make a greater return if renters successfully turn into buyers, and that they can repeat that over and over again. I asked questions in regards to what houses qualify. Is there any restrictions? Could Dwellr be exposed if everyone wants to buy a 1-bed and grows out of them in 3 years' time? I was informed that there's no real restrictions in the type of homes as long as mortgages can be got on those properties. They are targeting homes between the value of 250,000 up to 500,000 around the country, and they will manage their portfolio to make sure that they're not exposed to any one particular asset type. I was assuming that the 440 million raised would fund about 1,000 homes given the current average asking prices. I also assumed that if they were successful, more funds would be available to Dwellr. However, Dwellr are hoping to acquire 1,750 homes with the funds that they've already raised. And as homes are transferred to buyers, that will free up more capital to Dwellr to buy more and more homes. This is a considerable amount of homes or families that Dwellr are wishing to help into home ownership over the next few years. So on to some of the questions that matter maybe more for renters and buyers. How is the rent calculated? Well, it's based on the market rent for the property plus a top up so you can start saving for your deposit. How long is the application process? Well, they are trying to make sure that renters will be in a position to be buyers in a few years. So therefore, there is a bit of paperwork required. But at the moment, Dwellr cannot process the applications until Central Bank gives them their approval. But they are endeavouring to process people as soon as they possibly can. And I think they said to me a few times in a call that they were working on a first come, first served basis. So if it is something that you are interested, do make sure you sign up early. How long can you rent before you buy? Dwellr advised that they're aiming for people to be mortgage ready within 36 months, so effectively 3 years. However, they did say that they would be flexible, working with people who are mortgage ready far quicker than that, and perhaps working with people who take even longer than that as well. So they did emphasize that they're going to be very flexible on that 36-month period. Dwellr add a small amount to the property price. They add in their legal costs, they also add in stamp duty costs, and all of this is agreed up front and you are aware of this cost. So you know exactly what you're going to pay in 3 years' time when you are actually mortgage approved and ready to buy. What happens if you don't get mortgage approval or you don't want to buy the home you've been renting anymore? Well, you can serve notice and walk away with your savings subject to paying a relisting fee. I don't know how much that relisting fee is as yet, but generally in life, if you break an agreement, there are some costs to that. What happens if prices rise or fall during the rental period? Dwellr advised that they've carried out their own research and done their own studies and they don't believe prices will fall. But if prices fall, the renter can opt out and pay that relisting fee. If prices rise considerably, the renter benefits. This brings me on nicely to the pros and cons of renting and how this type of scheme could potentially change the housing market. A major pro for a potential buyer using a service like Dwellr is that once they find a house that they want to buy, they are effectively a cash purchaser, as Dwellr will step in and buy the house with cash. This is a huge benefit in buying and bidding on a home in the current market, and it also speeds up the acquisition process. A pro for both the renter and the companies like Dwellr is that the renter is planning to buy a home in the near future, so they are going to want to look after that home and even enhance it. Another major pro for the renter and buyer is that they can effectively hedge their bet against a rising or falling property market. If you believe that the market is about to crash, this is a perfect way for you to hedge against that prediction, and will only cost you a few grand to effectively set up a hedge against falling prices. If prices rise, you're no worse off. You've locked in your prices. If your prediction is right and prices do fall, I don't think they will fall dramatically unless there's some major worldwide event. But if you're right and prices do fall, you can be happy that you never bought, and you can walk away with your savings, paying a relisting fee, get out of the contract and buy a way cheaper house. I don't think this is going to happen, but if you're one of those people who think that property prices are going to crash, this is one way to hedge against your own prediction. Some of the pros for the companies like Dwellr is they don't have to worry about unpaid rent. If rent is unpaid, the renter is effectively forfeiting their right to buy. They also don't have to worry about long-term tenancy rights, because at the end of the day, they're hoping that the renter actually buys the property. They also get a cut of the mortgage fees, and they lock in the future prices, and therefore they can provide investors with a steady rate of return. There are some cons for renters too. They do lock in a price and the market might go a different way. Not all the rent that they're paying goes towards paying for the house or saving for the deposit, but this seems like a fair trade-off. If they were to back out of a deal, it is going to cost them a few grand, but again, if you back out of a contract, generally there are costs associated with it. But why do I think that this model or elements of this model could be a game changer for the Irish housing market? I touched on it in my call with Dwellr, but as they have raised 440 million and have the potential to raise even more, they can use some of these funds to fund new developments and work alongside developers. A major issue in new housing construction is that funds or housing bodies are snapping them up before they even get to the market. New apartment blocks cannot be funded or sold to the public market, and the only way they can get funding for construction is if they've lined up an institutional investor or a housing body all ready to buy all of those units. It's no longer possible to get a mortgage to buy off the plans anymore, and developers can't get funding to build for the public. This is a major issue for delivering new homes to the private market. Could a hybrid version of the rent-to-buy model be adapted and get some form of government support or tax relief for funds or pension funds or even a state-backed investment fund? Institutional investors, pension funds, or even a state fund could help fund development of new housing that is to be rented and then bought by renters. This gets over the whole issue of developers not being able to get access to funding to build for the private sector. Pension funds, institutional investors would then be able to provide funding for developers to provide for this type of market because they know they're getting a certain set return. And this gets over the whole hurdle of funding for the private market at the moment. This wouldn't be suitable for every development, but it unlocks way more opportunities for housing to be built for the private market. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Would you ever consider rent to buy? As always, thanks for watching.